Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television, our community connected. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at the Hays City Hall in the City Commission chambers, visiting with Hays City Manager Toby Dougherty and City Commissioner Eber Phelps as we talk about water issues to bring you up to date on the water situation in Hays and in the surrounding areas. If we might, Toby, let's begin with an update on the Smoky Hill well field. How does it look so far as the Smoky Hill wells go?
The Smoky Hill wells are stressed. The overall level of the well field is declining. The viewers may remember that last year about this time the city asked for a release of water from Cedar Bluff Reservoir to help replenish the well field, and it was very successful. The well field was essentially put back to its previous year's level. And last year we sort of used up the effects of that release, and now we are back to where we were before we started. So we did gain a year's worth of use out of the well field by the Cedar Bluff release, so it was very good. But right now we're back to a depleted state. We are in the water warning phase, and the levels are declining steadily. The level of decline slowed, the rate of decline slowed during the wintertime when the trees were dormant along the Smoky. The trees are coming out of dormancy now. The levels are dropping more quickly, and with the almost certain summer usage increase by our customers, we will see that depletion go down even more.
At this time, though, Toby, there's no indication, no option to have another release from Cedar Bluff Reservoir?
There's not water there available for release. I think there might be a little bit of water in that pool that's available for that, but it's not enough to do us any good. It wouldn't even reach our well field if we asked for it.
You mentioned that we are in the current water warning state now. What does that mean?
A water warning is the second stage of the city's drought response plan. We have water watch, water warning, water emergency. We've been in watch for a couple years now, moved to water warning about a month and a half ago. Water warning stage means that the city itself is going to cut back on its potable water usage. We actually utilize potable water to irrigate some of the medians along Vine Street and a few other areas. There's some flower beds and planters that have potable water. Massey Park, Aublebickle Park is irrigated with potable water. We are stopping the plantings and the medians from being watered. We are cutting back on Aublebickle and Massey just in hopes of keeping the grass alive, but it's probably not going to be lush green grass like it is on a normal year. For the residents, the outdoor and watering restrictions are in place. Outdoor watering is prohibited between 10 in the morning and 9 at night. We are no longer issuing newly seeded lawn permits. The newly seeded lawn permit program was modified last year pretty much just to include the warm season grasses, Buffalo and Bermuda. But they are water intensive to establish a warm season yard because it needs to be done in the heat of the summer. So no newly seeded lawn permits will be issued this year. We are not issuing permits for the washing down of hard surfaces or houses or things like that. And most notably for the customers is the 10 to 9 watering prohibition. That is in place right now. There's no outdoor watering between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Well, I know there's been an active campaign by Parks Director Jeff Boyle to try to keep the parks in shape and at the same time make sure that the grasses are climate appropriate. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are now basically for the city parks.
Right. We actually planted the northern 1/3 of Aublebickle Park to buffalo grass last year. Had a very good stand. So there's a sidewalk that essentially divides Aublebickle Park, and everything north of that sidewalk was planted to buffalo grass. The south side, there is potential for some buffalo grass to be planted, but it's limited because the part of the park is very heavily trafficked with some of the ball diamonds there. A lot of practices go along there, T-ball, coach pitch games. So buffalo grass is not really conducive to that type of traffic, so we'll probably keep that in a cool season grass. Massey is the same way. Massey Park is a very small park, but it's a very heavily utilized park, and probably not set up for much of a warm season grass because of the traffic it gets. We are in the process right now of converting Pratt Optima soccer fields and Glassman ball fields to warm season turf type Bermuda grass. So it'll handle the traffic the short periods it gets it, but it will use a lot less water. Those are irrigated with effluent water. And then Spire ball fields and Stramel ball fields will also be converted over to warm season turf.
Hey, City Commissioner Eber Phelps. Eber, you've seen this movie before as a commissioner in the years past.
Interesting you should bring that up. A lot of people have asked me what it's like being on the commission after a 20-year absence, and really and truly we're kind of picking up where things were back then, and so it's been a pretty interesting process here, and also to kind of look back over the years, the way this community has responded. And actually when I came back on the commission, I kind of suggested that or my plan was to kind of restart our education process, and lo and behold, right off the bat, the city manager was already on that track, and obviously there was some guidance from the previous city commission. So we are kind of doing exactly where things left off, if you will, and continuing that. We're going to, really get high gear here on our education efforts, because that's what really did it the last time. And not just have the city commission say, don't do this, or here's the hours you can water and so forth. Went around and educated people why we were doing it, as well as instilled in people's daily habits various ways to conserve water. Obviously, with our low flow shower head giveaways and things like that, it's obviously continued to this day, and so we're doing as a community a remarkable effort.
Toby, the restrictions, the warning phase that we're in now, applies to those that are on city service. What about the private well issue now?
The city does not govern private wells or any water rights for that matter. The state of Kansas Division of Water Resources actually governs that. There is a procedure, though, that the city can follow, which we have done, whereby the end result is the Division of Water Resources can delegate the authority to regulate the private wells to the city. City Commission passed an ordinance last week, which was the final phase in that, along with the revamping of our water conservation plan, of which the drought response plan is a part of. That information was sent to DWR last Friday. We received word this week. It's been received and approved by DWR. We also sent a letter to the chief engineer of the Division of Water Resources asking him to issue an order that requires all private wells to comply with our Phase 2 water warning regulations. So that would be the outdoor watering prohibition between 10 and 9. We have not received that order yet. We expect to receive it either the end of the week or the first part of next week. And when we do, we will have press releases, and we're going to actually send a mailing out to all utility customers. So everybody will receive a letter explaining this. At that time, then the city has the ability to enforce our regulations on private wells. The state essentially delegates that authority to us. So it falls under the same set of ordinances as our typical water customers.
And would then the city have the immediate response to be able to implement another phase automatically with city usage as well as private usage, should we have to go into a more extreme phase?
Not automatically on the private wells. If things keep progressing in a downward trend and eventually we reach the emergency stage in our drought response plan, the restrictions in the emergency stage automatically apply to the customers. But with the private wells, we would have to send another letter to the DWR and ask them to require private wells to comply with the emergency stage. We get that approval, and then they would comply. I don't see an issue with it. It's happened locally. Ellis has done the same thing, and the turnaround is very quick. Salina has done the same thing as far as their drought response plan. The turnaround is very quick. It's just a matter of they have to review our request, review our plan, and then issue the order back out. There's a certain amount of due diligence the chief engineer has to do here.
Eber, I wanted you to let folks know that you and Toby attended a meeting, a water conservation forum, if you will, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What did you learn from that meeting, in March, I believe it was?
Well, I think it started right off the bat when we saw the program for it was a Land and Water Series, and it was sponsored by the New Mexico's Airscape Council. And the program said Land and Water Conference, and it said drought, an opportunity for change. And I thought that was really interesting to put that in a somewhat of a positive light. Not that it's any good thing to have a drought, but the fact of the matter is you can address this in a positive way by being proactive and actually putting a plan in place. The city manager keeps referring to drought response plan. and that is a real key, that you are not constantly in a reactionary mode, but doing some proactive things, just like the City Commission implementing the water warning program, or at least that phase when we did, instead of waiting until right in the middle of the summer when people have already put their plantings in and started lawns and so forth. We wanted to kind of let people know that we are monitoring this very close. Now, the landscape series that we went to in Albuquerque was very beneficial, just hearing what they're doing in other places, because, you know, the drought's not specific to Hays or western Kansas. The western part of the United States is really in dire straits as well. So we, you know, heard from people from Texas and some of the western states what they're doing, and we can be pretty proud of what we've accomplished here. But, you know, one of the things with xeriscaping is the fact that you want to instill in people's mind that xeriscape is not necessarily rocks and cactus. There's other things. We did visit the New Mexico, or at least the Albuquerque, I don't want to say a botanical garden, and remarkable display of plants there that are drought resistant. So there's options available out there that don't require a lot of water and can still keep our community very beautiful.
Matter of fact, Toby, the city itself has implemented programs where people can stop by and see plantings that are actually working in low water situations right here that the city is maintaining.
Right, we're trying to lead by example. We have a demonstration garden in front of City Hall that was planted last fall, where people can come and look at the different types of plants and how they bloom and grow throughout the year. And the plants are identified with placards telling people what they are, so they can go to their local plant retailer and try to buy them. We put in a demonstration plot at 21st and Pershing. There's a little circle island there. We have a grass plot at Sunrise Park, a perennial grass plot at Sunrise Park. We're working on other plots at Sunrise Park, warm season grasses, and some different types of drought-tolerant plants. We have had to look to communities in the West to find comparables. When I came on board, we were in 2005, we were looked to as the leader in Kansas in water conservation. And I have no doubt that in the 90s we were the leader. We were way ahead of everybody else, and we kept at what we were doing, but the rest of the communities that are comparable to us kind of passed us by in that interim period, and we were still focusing on shower heads and toilets and high-efficiency washing machines. And the other communities that we were dealing with were focusing on outdoor water use. And I think it's because our comparables are communities in the Front Range of Colorado and New Mexico and Utah and Arizona and the desert Southwest, because they're dealing with a lot of the same water issues that we are. We live in an arid climate. People don't want to hear that, but we live in an arid climate. And Kentucky bluegrass and fescue are not the standards you want to live by in an arid climate. Now, I can make an argument that we need some parks and green spaces with those types of grasses and ball fields, because you need places for your community to go play and have spots of green. But the reality is, if every house we build is wall-to-wall fescue and bluegrass, we do not have the water for that. That's an unnatural plant to be growing in a climate like this. And so we have had to look to other communities in how they have, from landscaping regulations to drought-tolerant plant displays. That's what communities all over the West are doing to try to inform their residents. City of Las Vegas and the Southern Nevada Water Authority, when Lake Mead started when the Colorado River, they realized they didn't have the yield to sustain what they were doing. They looked other areas for water. It was very expensive. And they looked inward and realized their biggest user of water was grass in Las Vegas. It wasn't the casinos. It wasn't all of the high-priced hotels. It was grass and lawns. And they put a stop to that pretty quickly. And they have turned the corner, and they're making their water sources sustainable just by addressing the outdoor watering. And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to set a standard here by where it's not wall-to-wall bluegrass and fescue that is a standard of sustainability. It is more wise water use of landscaping that is still very aesthetically pleasing.
And as you've said many times, outdoor watering constitutes the biggest water use for the citizens of Hays.
It does. On an average day in the wintertime, when you know you are utilizing water strictly for domestic purposes, cooking, cleaning, washing, business, commercial, industrial, we use anywhere from 1.4 to 1.6, 1.8 million gallons a day. It's nothing for us in the summertime to hit 3.8 million gallons a day, and that's going down on lawns.
Hayes City Manager Toby Dougherty, City Commissioner Eber Phelps from Hayes City Hall, and our Community Connection. Thanks for watching.